This is the Mickey Miles and More podcast, your one stop for information on Disney races, Disney vacations, Disney theme parks, and more. Now, here are your hosts for the Mickey Miles and More podcast, Michelle Scribner-McLean, Chris Eliopoulos, and Mike Scopa.
Welcome back, Mickey Milers. I'm your host, Chris Eliopoulos. I'm here with my good friend, Mike Scopa. How are you doing, Michael?
Good morning, Chris. Good afternoon, Chris. Good evening, Chris. What are we doing?
Such a beautiful location you're sitting in. I can see the beach club behind you. It's amazing that you made it to the parks.
And you know, it brings to mind a quote from a famous attraction. And I'm wondering if I may indulge myself and present this quote, and maybe you or this young lady who's also here, Michelle, or maybe our guest could guess what it is. So here it is. Mm-hmm. When you're working with explosives, it's dangerous.
Muppets.
Nope.
You're working with explosives, it's dangerous. That's a good one. Is it a defunct attraction?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Is it in Hollywood Studios?
Yes.
Gosh, that sounds so familiar. Oh, it's Indiana Jones.
Correct.
Well done. And the person who guessed right is our good friend, Dr. Michelle Scribner-McLean. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello, fellows. How are we?
Good. How's everything with you?
Everything is busy.
Well,
summer
you told
courses.
me beforehand your background over there is
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. One of my favorite Pixar movies.
Incredibles 2?
Yes, Incredibles 2. That's my second favorite Pixar movie.
Do you have any shout outs today?
I do. It's kind of a sad one, but I think it's an important one. And it is to the folks over at Give Kids the World. Because today they announced that they are closing down indefinitely and furloughing employees. So if you don't know, Give Kids the World is an amazing place in Orlando where they work with wish granting agencies, and they take kids and their families, kids who are suffering from life-threatening diseases. They send them to the parks, they send them to any experience that they fly them there, and they give them a villa. I've volunteered there. Mike has volunteered there. Chris, you have volunteered there or visited there before?
We were actually planning on doing it, and then
yeah, it's a pretty cool place. So it's heartbreaking that these employees, but more so that the families are not going to be able to visit. So they just announced that today. So our wish is that things settle down in the Orlando area and they can open up again and do their good work.
Hear, hear. Okay. Well, speaking of that, I guess that segues right into the subject. What we're going to try and do moving forward is cut our shows a little bit shorter, so we're not here for 45 minutes or so. We're going to try and make each show about 20 minutes long. For the time being, the thought is that we'll probably spend one episode discussing the eventual reopening of the parks and some of the problems that we're seeing with it. So this will be that first episode of about 20 minutes talking about it, which comes like right on the heels of Disney's announcement that they will be opening up Disneyland starting on its anniversary of its opening, which is what, July 17th? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
July 17th, they're going to open up the resort. They will be opening up downtown Disney and Disneyland on the 9th. But you're right, Chris, they're opening it up on the 17th, which is 64 years to the day when they first opened.
And it was kind of a surprise to people. I think that we've been hearing all about Disney World, and then all of a sudden it seemed as if it was out of the blue that, hey, Disneyland is opening now too.
Yeah. Which kind of begs the question, it's funny, we were talking about this offline. The amount of tests for the coronavirus has gone up. And in that time, especially like in Florida, we're looking at numbers where the numbers are going up. So basically it's saying to us that those numbers were already higher than we thought they were, which means, so Michelle, the doctor, the scientist, the numbers are more than they thought. Is Disney making a mistake opening based on faulty numbers?
Oh my goodness, such a
I know
laden
it's a big
question.
one.
I mean, it really is.
We'll start grand and we'll kind of go back and
Yeah,
go
I
into
mean,
the macro.
I mean, the optimist in me wants to say that it's not just all about the money. That, have we heard that they're one of the biggest, if not the biggest employer in Florida? So they are supporting a little microeconomy with all its cast members. Um, but also financially, they're really hurting. I think I said this last time. If I were to go any place and want to be safe, I think it would be Disney. But I think it's a very personal decision. I wouldn't want to make that for anybody. I could say that for me, the data do not support me going to the parks at this point, and I'm
Well,
not.
you
And
going, but do you think they should open? Is it smart? Is it safe?
I think it's risky. I think it's very, very risky. I think there could be a gigantic backslide, and they have all the disclaimers that you may be exposed, and they're doing all the right things. But
Yeah.
I would wait. Honestly, I would wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I tend to think they might. I mean, for us, we had a trip planned in August. We've already backed out. I tried to do the optimistic thing, and I pushed that reservation to next August because I don't want to, I still want to have that thing to look forward to.
Oh yeah, and I did the same thing. I mean, we were going in June, and then again in July, and also on a cruise, and it bummed me out. I'll tell you, canceling. Yeah, it's just like, oh, I don't want to
Yeah.
cancel. But to make myself feel better, I did what you guys did, which is I booked my next spring break. So
Yeah.
at least there's something on the horizon.
Okay. So now, Mike. So recently, now that we're talking about it, so say they're going to open, right? We doubt that they're going to change their plans. I don't think they're going to back out at this point. I've been looking at some of the changes that are being made, the things that are being not given out. I'll give a few to you in a minute, but what's your feeling on the fact that they are cutting out so many things like fireworks, parades, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and yet I haven't heard anything about changing the cost. Do you feel like they're going to change like daily cost? I mean, I know I got rid of I got the refund on my annual pass, and I think we're going to talk about that in a minute. But what do you think? Should they be lowering prices? I mean, that's a bad precedent to set for them, but do you think they would?
There has been no mention of any discounting of the tickets, and that kind of raised the flag with me, uh, especially after they announced things like there would be no parades, there would be no fireworks, there would be no character meet and greet. And we still aren't sure as to which attractions will be open or not. They have not said. Also, there is a reduction in the operating hours for the park. So I was really, kind of surprised, Chris, that we haven't heard anything. And I think that from a PR standpoint, I think it would be a big mistake if they did not allow that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is something we're still going to watch. We have heard a lot about an advanced reservation system. And recently we heard that annual pass holders were not going to be given any privileges. I've talked with people who are in Club 33 and they haven't heard anything from Club 33. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and one of them is what you just said. Will there be a discount on the park tickets? The other thing is that if you have a park hopper and only 2 parks are available, that kind of reduces, the actual functionality of the ticket. So there are a lot of questions, and it'll be really interesting to see what happens. The July 11th date is still a month away, and the question you posed to Michelle is really important because a lot can happen between now and July 11th. Recently, there was a lot of talk that we should see what happens 21 days following Memorial Day weekend. Well, now we've got a lot of gatherings over the last week for obvious reasons, and now we have to wait 2 to 3 weeks to see what happens. So on the one hand, I think they were smart to push it out way to the 11th because they could always pull it back if something happens. But at the same time, if you've got people planning and then all of a sudden they pull back because of an uptick, what is that going to do? So there's so many questions.
Yeah, the other thing to consider is that the governor of Florida announced today that they are intending to open all Florida schools. And so, Disney, of course, is a microcosm unto itself. It's our little happy bubble there. But in reality, they are in a gigantic state that's going to be opening full force. So what does it look like if Disney World is not doing what the rest of the state is doing? I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, but the rest of the state is pushing forward. And I also want to make one other point about lowering the costs. Even though they haven't talked about that yet, if they ever do, I think they are doing some things that are sort of good faith, trying to reward the people who, like us, who go all the time. When we went to ask for refunds of annual passes, it was actually pretty easy. It took about 15 minutes, but it was actually pretty easy, and they're gonna prorate it. But they're also extending things. They're extending passes and things like that to account for the time that the park was closed. That's another option. They haven't mentioned anything about Tables in Wonderland yet. We actually asked when we were getting refunds on our annual passes, and the woman said that department's not open yet. So
yeah, I will say when I called for the refund, I got my refund, and then I had asked, because I do it every year, and as you know, you get a discount when you renew it as opposed to just getting it fresh and new. The rule still applied. So my pass would end December 6th. I had up to 30 days past that to renew for next year. It won't, you don't have to renew it now, so it goes from the date that mine would have ended.
Oh, interesting.
So you have 30 days beyond whenever your pass was to be over. So I was only 3 months into my pass when they shut down. So I'm pretty much going to get about 9 months back, basically, which is a nice thing for them to do. Again, they didn't have to do it, but they did. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Mike, is the fact that you also now have to, they're saying you're going to have to make reservations for the parks right now. I think I read, I could be wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, they don't want you park hopping, they want you staying in one park. The transportation is going to be a lot harder to get around because they're only going to allow a certain amount of people if you're going to go on the buses or the boats. You're not going to be able to go to other hotels, restaurants, or bars. Do you feel like this is even a time that we should be going, just because of the fact that you can't get the normal things you would normally get? Forget about money, just the experience. Isn't it I know we like to go to different hotels and hotel hop and maybe go to a bar and get a tray, a cheese board or something like that. Is it something you're even interested in doing?
Is the passionate Mike coming through? And if there are Disney executives monitoring us right now, they're not going to like what I'm going to say. But here's the thing. If they're going to open up 2 parks, Magic Kingdom and Studios, on the 11th, and they're going to open up Animal Kingdom and Epcot on the 15th, and there's going to be a reservation system, why the heck would I even book a trip to Orlando when I don't know if I can get into the parks because of this reservation system, because they're going to limit capacity? So why would I want to spend the money, risk my life, my family's life, to contract this virus when there's no guarantee I'm going to get into the park on the day I want to get in? And, oh, by the way, no fireworks and all that other stuff.
So Mike, if you lived in Orlando, would you go?
If I lived in Orlando, it would be different, Michelle, because I wouldn't have to worry about the cost and danger of flying down and all that stuff. I could just be there and I could try to get into the reservation, and it's just a minute.
So you're willing to risk contracting the disease if you live locally? It's a money.
No, I don't know if I would. I mean, I think it would be easier to think about going, but I'm not sure if I'd still go. I mean, I think that we're still waiting for the jury to come through and figure out what's going on. if you follow the numbers, Florida, California.
Yeah.
What about you, Chris? If you lived in Orlando, would you go?
Look, I don't even want to go to my supermarket.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like, and it's so funny because I went the other day. I was saying to my wife, we were talking about. I had gone to the supermarket. It was amazing this week. There were literally. I went on a Monday morning at about 8:30. There were about 10 shoppers in at the same time. Now this is a big, huge A&P or shopper, whatever it's called. And of those 10 people, 3 were going up the wrong way up the aisles. And again, I can't tell if it's just because of they're not used to it yet, or if they're just not caring or what. One woman, I was going the correct way. She was coming up the other way and she shot me a dirty look like I was in the wrong. And then she looked down, saw the arrow, went, ooh, and pulled to the side. So she got it, but whatever. Then as I was walking out, an older gentleman was walking in. The reason I say is older because, white beard, he looked like Scopa. But an older guy, and he was kind of, I only noticed him because he was limping along. Hey, maybe it was. No mask. He was walking into the supermarket without a mask. And so I said to myself, if we can't even figure this out in the supermarkets, are people going to figure it out in the park? So for me, yeah, even if I was local, I don't know if I would go at this point. It's too bad, they're not really looking at what's going on here and how quickly it can build up. But I also just don't think I'm going to get the experience I want out of it. I like, sitting like you are, Mike, right on the patio there. And if I wanted to go if I want to go say I can't get into the park, I want to go swimming. Well, I normally stay at the yacht club. They're keeping Stormalong Bay down. Like it's not even going to be open.
Wow.
So I can't even go to the swimming pool that I want to go to. Does that discount the price?
All the water parks is going to remain closed. You're right.
So it's a bit of a, you know what? I'll wait and see. I feel bad because I know so many people want to go back, and I've seen so many people online cheering this on, and I get worried that everybody's a little too gung ho. Michelle, does that make you nervous that people are a little too excited to go without thinking of the consequences?
It's interesting. We've been, the three of us text daily nonstop about this stuff. And one of the things that we were texting about this week was the promotional video from Universal Studios, which, again, did all the right things. To me, it looked like something from Saturday Night Live. It just looks so beyond ridiculous because it was wonderful that they were telling people about how to be safe, but honestly just did not look fun with people posing with their masks in front of the Universal Globe, and it just didn't look fun to me. I think we said this last week, masks aren't magical. We've talked about this too, Mike and I have talked about this too. What about the family who's been saving for 5 years? This is their trip to Disney World. They saved $6,000. They want this to be amazing, and they can't get into the park when they want to. They can't go to the places I would just, the three of us go all the time. I would just advise people to hang on and wait. And wait. I think that, I said it last time, it's a big science experiment. I don't want to be part of the science experiment.
You want to be the guinea pig?
No, I don't want to be. I do feel very sad for the cast members and things like that. But I think we just need to put on the brakes.
I was going to say, even speaking of the cast members, when I was at the supermarket, the cashier was talking to me, and she just said she was miserable. She was working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and she's wearing that mask, and she said it's horrible. Horrible. And we talked about the scientific stuff about you're losing oxygen. So for us runners, it's been a thing. We're going to talk running on the next episode to give you a little bit of a tease. But yeah, Mike, I mean, I know we've talked about it. We've only got like a minute or so left before we wrap this up. But is the fact that you'd have to wear a mask all day long a big deterrent?
I think that it may not sound like much for those who really are dying to go back. But once you hit that Florida weather, 90-degree heat, and you keep telling your 2-year-old daughter to keep the mask on, keep the mask on. After a while, I think that the toleration threshold is going to, have an issue. I think that there's going to be sort of a honeymoon for the first day or two, and then we'll see what happens. I actually am looking forward to seeing if there are going to be people who are going to be streaming live on July 11th, because I really want to watch. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen. I don't want to say that it's like a train wreck, ready to. I'm watching for a train wreck, and I'm just really curious. I'm really curious to see how they're going to enforce the social distancing. I think that's the biggest key there. Yeah. The mask. I think the mask is going to be the mask thing, but telling people to keep their distance, and you know how crowds are.
Yeah. However, I do have hope. I do have hope that Disney will do it well, and that people
they're going to try
good decisions.
Yeah. So, well, we'll remain hopeful, if not a little bit pessimistic in terms of the opening, but
the three of us want to go back. I would hop on a plane tomorrow if I could. I honestly would.
No, I think that's the thing. It's like we all want to go, but it's just for our own safety and safety of others and the way things go. They're talking about another uptick right now, much less another spike in the fall. So it's something to look cautiously at and see where we stand. Like you said, I don't want to be the guinea pig, but all right. So we're going to wrap it up at that one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have another episode in a couple of days for you. So I want to say on behalf of Mike Scopa, Michelle Scribner-McLean, I'm Chris Iliopoulos. Please make sure you hit click and subscribe down below, and we'll see you on the next show.